All right, we are live. We're gonna give him a few minutes, Mr. Campbell, and let him get in here. Let him all grab a seat.
Yes,
this is a pretty big interview for us. We got another AD. We don't get many of those guys on, and I'm so happy that we have a very esteemed athletic director on tonight. Get a few more seconds. Let them get here. I see them logging in now. They all jumping on. Oh, there they go. There they go. Go ahead and share it in all your favorite places, because this is going to be a very informative interview. We got a really special guest. We're going to ask him some really good questions about what it means to be an AD. What's an AD's role? How do ADs come to some of the conclusions they come to? But with no further ado, I'd like to welcome everybody to HBCU Coaches Corner. I'm your host, Rocky Miller, along with my co-host, Stephen Campbell. Coach Cole is going to be joining us a little later in the broadcast. But before we get started, I have to ask my co-host, Mr. Campbell, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm here. I have not had any April Fool's foolishness, so people knew not to bring that foolishness to me. So, man, we got another 3 hours to get through this day, because there's enough foolishness in real life for me to be dealing with any silly. So, man, I'm excited, man. This, the great thing about, man, this is to me a really big show. We have a lot of coaches, but I'm super excited the two guests we have, because we have a lot of people talking about what the alumni should be doing, what the AD should be doing, what is their job, and we got a lot of people that got a lot of opinions. But now we're going to be able to talk to people and talk about how they're supporting their universities, what their job entails, and how, we can support them also from the alumni standpoint and supporting the AD. So, man, I am super excited about what we're going to be doing tonight.
Absolutely. Again, I just want to reiterate, Coach Cole is going to be joining us, but we're going to go ahead and get this interview underway, because this guy is a very busy guy. He runs a huge operation on the campus of Prairie View. Prairie View is also known as the Hill as well, along with other HBCUs. I'm getting coming to understand that you guys have 7 hills at FAMU, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. You better believe it.
And then I think Alabama A&M has some hills over there that they call the Hill, and then Prairie View is known as the Hill as well. But with no further ado, I'll step aside and let Mr. Campbell do the introduction of our next guest.
Well, I am excited to introduce Prairie View's Director of Athletics, a Pittsburgh native, a former student athlete at Bowling Green University. Might want to talk a little bit about that. And I saw one thing, because we see somebody in the chat, a prestigious member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, Prairie View A&M's Director of Athletics, Anton Goff.
What's up, fellas?
Hey, what's up? What's up, AD Goff?
I'm good.
All right. Well, before we get, as we get started, this is your first time on the show with us. This is your first. Have you made it one calendar year at Prairie View yet?
Yeah, I've been here a year and a half.
Year and a half. So I think we need to probably go through a little background first, AD Goff. Kind of share with us, how did you get to be the AD at the prestigious University of Prairie View?
So it goes back, man, all the way back to my childhood, man. This athletic administration is basically a family business. My mom was an athletic director. She was the athletic director of Virginia State University way back in the day. But, growing up, she was an administrator at University of Pittsburgh. And so anytime I wasn't in class or practicing one of my sports, I was on campus at the University of Pittsburgh, and she would just put me in different offices, man, while she went and did some work. And so by the time I say I was like 13, 14, man, I knew everything that happened behind the scenes of an athletic department, right? And so it kind of grew from there, kind of like, a coach's son who goes to a coach's practice and then becomes a head coach. And so that's kind of how it started. I played football, Bowling Green State University, man. And then after that, ended up getting in athletics. I worked at Kent State University in Ohio. Then I worked at University of Maryland, worked at Michigan State, back to University of Maryland, took my first AD job at Bowie State University in Maryland, and then went from there, took the AD job at University of Hartford, AD job at St. John's University in New York, and then went from there to Northern Illinois University as a senior associate AD, and then a year and a half ago got the call from President LeGrand and got offered the job at Prairie View A&M University, and here I am.
Oh man, that is I noticed something in your journey that I want to point out. Like you had a familiarity with HBCUs as with your mother being the AD of Virginia State.
Yep.
So you had a familiarity in an informal fashion, I guess, being that your mother had a formal role, and of course, being her son, you understood that job. And I also get that being a part of athletic department is almost like a family business for you, in that your mother was in it and you're in it. But the one thing I saw it is that through your journey, your first professional introduction to HBCUs as a paid employee was as an AD at Bowie State. So kind of tell me, how did you, because that's not a transition that a lot of people make, go from the PWI space and then journey into being an AD of Bowie State.
Yeah. So, the funny thing was I actually lived in the city of Bowie, but didn't know where Bowie State was, right? Because I was so focused on University of Maryland and went opposite way. But I got a call from the VP over there, and somebody had given them my name, and they asked like, "Hey, would you be interested?" And I was like, probably not. Like, I'd never been at a Division II institution. It wasn't even an HBCU thing. I just had never been at a Division II, and I was used to resources. But they had asked me, just come over, man, have lunch with the president. And what's so funny, Dr. Burnham, who was the president at the time, he's from the Dallas area. So he's from Texas, dressed up, got his cowboy boots on, got a little bit of that Southwestern slang accent. And I went over there, man, and was so impressed with him. And so, and like, God works in mysterious ways, man. Like, I went over there and I immediately had a vision of what that place could be. And at first kind of resisted it and went back and was like, no, I'm pretty good where I'm at. But they kept talking to me. And finally, man, I prayed on it and came to the conclusion, man, like I needed to be over there for some reason, right? It was just right. And so that's how I got to Bowie State. And, I went there and developed the facilities, and because of the relationships I had with those folks at the University of Maryland and the state legislator, that I'd helped, develop relationships with our high level coaches, I was able to leverage my relationships to affect Bowie State in a positive way. And so it was just meant to be, man. And so I had a great time there, and, moved on, and then, obviously had an opportunity to come back, man.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now we get you to Prairie View. Well, let me ask you this: at Bowie, can you recall how many coaching hires that you made at Bowie?
So at Bowie, I think I made maybe 3 or 4, if I'm mistaken. The football coach was already there. Basketball coach was already there. I hired the women's basketball coach, bowling, and I think softball coach I hired. I'd have to look back, but I hired a couple coaches.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. We have our main man here, our featured host, which is none other than the SWAC legend himself, the man that won through 6 touchdowns playing against Jerry Rice and Willie Todd. None other than Johnny Cole.
What's up, Coach? What's up, Mr. Goff? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. How you doing, man?
Man, sorry for my tardiness, but man, got to do what a man got to do. I referee games now, so I kind of like staying close to the game.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, we got him all the way from when he was a child with his mother at University of Pittsburgh University, and then we got him all the way up to Bowie State, and kind of give us, because this is always interesting to me, how does it unfold that a guy all the way in Maryland becomes the AD of Prairie View University?
So it's funny, man. So I'm at Northern Illinois University, senior associate AD up there, and doing my thing, and wasn't looking for a job. Right, I had me and my wife, we have 2 daughters, and at the time we had a daughter that was getting ready to go to Illinois State University as a freshman, right, in-state, hour and a half away, and we had our youngest daughter was finishing up her sophomore year, and so I had promised my youngest daughter that I wasn't going to move her, because we had moved from Connecticut to Illinois, and and it was like during the COVID time, and so I said, listen, man, I'm not going to move you again, like you straight up here, and I get a call from the search firm that I had used to hire a volleyball coach at Northern Illinois, right? I thought they was calling just to kind of get a name or something when they mentioned that they wanted to talk to me about Prairie View, because I was actually on the golf course at the time and was like, couldn't talk to them. And it was like, hey, we just want to talk to you about Prairie View. So I thought they was asking me about some people I might know might be interesting, because I hadn't applied. I wasn't really looking at it like that. And then after I got off the golf course, called them and they said, hey, man, the president wants to talk to you. And I was like, okay, I'll try to get some names. They're like, no, the president wants to talk to you about the job. And I was like, oh, man, I ain't even thought about that. But what's so funny is that I had visited Prairie View before. I knew Ashley Robinson, my frat brother, who was, used to be the AD at PV. Now he's at Jackson. And I always said in my mind, if I was ever to go back to an HBCU, it would be Prairie View. And the reason why is because the resources available, the education that Prairie View offers, and the location. I love Houston. I love the Cypress area and the suburbs. And so I always thought that would be a great place to work if I was ever to come down south or something like that. And so in having a conversation with the president had been here 2 months, and this was her first big hire. And one of the things that resonated with me is she was like, I am a first-time president, but I'm not going to hire a first-time AD. And to me, that resonated to the fact that she understood like what she needed. And so, we had conversations, man, for a while. And then without me even coming down here, she was like, I know what I want, offered me the job. I talked to the wife. Wife was like, I'm going to support you. Talked to my youngest daughter. She was upset. And I was like, we're going to get through this, baby girl. You know what I'm saying? And, talked to my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter was like, Dad, I'm good. I'm staying up here, Illinois State. I'm in college. And so we made the move, man. And it's been a blessing ever since, man. I couldn't have asked for a better first year and a half.
I bet your younger daughter loves it now, though, don't she? With all the pomp and circumstance down there, huh?
She likes it, man. She likes it a lot. I just took her to the rodeo. We went to the country or western concert. She loves it, man. She loves it down here. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. She misses home. She will tell you that she misses home, but she likes it down here a lot.
Yeah.
Well, AD Goff. So you hit the ground running here at Prairie View. There are a lot of things that unfolded right when you got here, right? You had to. Were you the one that assigned Coach McDowell an interim tag, or was that already done before you got here?
No. So when I got here, Coach McDowell was already in. He wasn't interim at all. Like, okay. He had signed his contract. I came down beginning of his second season. Like, I literally started that Monday of the Labor Day Classic. So my first day on the job, I was downtown talking trash about a rivalry that I didn't really know about, you know what I'm saying? But I understood rivalries, you know what I'm saying? Being at, the Maryland Duke rivalry, the Michigan State rivalry, Kent State, Akron, Bowling Green, Toledo. So I've been a part of a bunch of rivalries, the Bowie State, Virginia State deal. So I knew what that felt like, and I understood the importance of the game. So my first day, man, I was down there talking trash about how we was going to win the Labor Day Classic.
Oh, that's awesome. So you got two football seasons under your belt here?
2, yes. Yep.
2 football seasons under your belt. And then all of a sudden you make the decision to not renew Coach McDowell's contract. You end up in a situation where you're looking for a head coach, and we're running this all the way down to where we are today. What was your concerns about hiring a new coach? What was your priorities when looking for a new coach?
Yeah, so it came down to, right, Coach McDowell's my guy. Like, one of the best dudes I've ever met in this business, man. We were friends. We talked about spiritual stuff, man. But when it came down to it, right, I had seen 2 seasons of football. My very first season, we win the West, play FAMU in the championship, don't win. Next season, we got high expectations. We did not come close to meeting those expectations. So now he's at the end of his contract. I have to decide whether I want to do a 1-year deal with him to say, hey, let's run this back 1 year, or do a multi-year deal with him, or move in a different direction. And I never like at the end of a contract giving a coach a 1-year deal and saying, hey, man, you got to make some changes. Because now when you're talking about hiring support staff, it's hard to get the best people out there when they know they're coming in with a coach that's only got 1 year on his contract. I also felt like we weren't at the level where I was comfortable enough to do a 3 or 4 year contract, right? So I came to the conclusion that I needed to make a change. I need to put my imprint on this, not just the athletic department, but this program, because I view myself as a football guy, right? And so I've been around high level coaches. I've worked with Coach Loxley at Maryland. I've worked with Coach Franklin at Penn State, Coach Gundy at Oklahoma State, and guys like that, right? And so I know what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to smell like, what it's supposed to feel like. And I wanted to get to that feel. And so went to the president and said I wanted to make a change. She said, okay. Me and Coach had a man-to-man conversation. I'm talking about Coach McDowell. We both cried. I'm gonna be upfront with like this hurt me. Like I love that man, right? But I knew from a professional standpoint and from a longevity of that program, I felt like I needed to change. And so asked the president how involved she wanted to be. She said, I don't. Like, I hired you to make these type of decisions and go through the process, so it's on you. And so once again, I love our president, and I appreciated her confidence and support that she was giving me to make this hire. And so I said, do I need to have a big committee? She said, no, that's up to you. I said, well, I'm gonna let you know now, it's gonna be a committee of 1. I'm gonna make this hire. I'm gonna hire this search firm so I can filter.
Well, Prairie View guy must have cut him off.
I said I want to hire a search firm so I can vet all the calls, because as soon as we make this public, it's going to be a million calls, and I don't need that just flood my timeline and all that stuff. And so hired a search firm and went through the process. There were so many high level coaches, man, that was interested in this job that I was surprised a little bit by the interest, because there were some coaches at some of these P4 schools that was reaching out to me and applying and really wanted the job, right? And so I had a great candidate pool to pull from. But as I went through it and looking at, what Prairie View needed, what that football program needed, what I needed as an AD, I came up with Coach Tremaine Jackson, right? You know what I'm saying? And the process, man, that we went through was a long but a deep and a meaningful one, right? Like we had interviews, right? You know what I'm saying? I talked to him about, hey man, if you get the coaching, why are you interested in this? What are you going to bring to PV? The cursory stuff. But then we went to a deeper level, man. We were having conversations every night, man. Just me and this guy sitting down talking about, life, man. Talking about our mission in life, what we wanted to get out of, being a head coach, being an AD, man, trying to change young men's lives, right, for the better. Talked about being girl dads, right, and what's that like, man. Talked about being in frat, like he's a Q, I'm a Kappa, but we got the 1911 bond, right. We talked about, got to the point where I was like, listen, man, if you take this job, you have to really believe in me. Just like if I offer you a job, I have to really believe in you, because you're on a great trajectory right now. If you take the wrong job with the wrong AD, that can change your trajectory, right? Same thing with me. If I hire the wrong coach, it can change my trajectory. And so, we talked about that and the importance of we're putting each other's future and family in each other's hand and understanding that, what that means and what that looks like. And so that alignment that we had together, man, just made it, for me, an easy decision to hire him as our next football coach.
Coach, AD Goff, I'm gonna let Mr. Campbell get in here. But AD Goff, you've just listening to you, you've kind of revealed some big picture thinking, not only about the program, but about you and Coach Jackson as individuals. And we don't hear that enough when we talk to coaches and different administrators, right? That big picture thinking about where this could lead, not only the university, but where this could lead you individually. I understand that, everybody plays the game a lot of times like Prairie View or Grambling or whoever. This is my dream job. But you guys having this conversation, I'm happy to hear that you are men that could dream bigger than Grambling, bigger than Prairie View, bigger than Jackson State, and you're willing to put that out there and let it be known, right, that you guys are going places and you guys expect to win and be successful. Campbell, when you hear that as an HBCU loyalist, Mr. Campbell, what do you hear when you hear that?
Well, I'm super excited because we all know it starts at the top. And every decision he makes, he's got a lot of people that he's got to answer to. He knows exactly. You got alumni, you got a street alumni, you got the faculty, you got coaches and things like that. So the thing that I've always wanted for all of our HBCUs, and me and Coach Cole talked about this, and this is what's going to kind of lead into it. You were a former athlete. And one of the things that back in the day, a lot of our ADs were former athletes and things like, or former coaches. So they really understood from the athletic level of what needed to be done. I was super excited about that. So what part of you being a former football player yourself, and you see these former athletes and say, I have your experience. I know exactly what you need. So how did that play a role for some of the decisions that you're making for Prairie View?
Yeah, so the student athlete experience is super important to me, right? And I know part of the student athlete experience is feeling like you're able to be competitive when you step on the field, right? There's nothing worse than you stepping on the field and knowing you got no chance to win, right? And so I think about that, and one of my jobs is to make sure we have a great student athlete experience. And trying to do that is providing the resources so our teams can compete for championships, right? And that goes from the way we eat, the way we train, the way we travel, the way we look when we step out on the field, you know what I'm saying? The support staff around a team. And so I understand all those things. And so I try to make sure that we've got the highest level of all that.
Now, AD Goff, one of the things and I'll say this, I grew up in Jackson, so I know Prairie View's illustrious history, good and bad. But one of the things that I will say, as you know, the Blue Bloods in the conference, Grambling, Jackson State, Southern, FAMU is there now as a Blue Blood. But one thing I've always said, the sleeping giant and the originator is Prairie View A&M. And for everything that you guys have, you're talking about great academic institute. You're talking about a great location being in Texas, like you say, not far from Houston. What were some of the things that you said when you looked around and said, okay, I know where we're at. What can I use that you already have in-house because of location, because of the athletes, and because the academic school that Prairie View to say we can go to the next level and be a championship squad? And all, because see, Prairie View is one of those schools that I look at a FAMU, I look at a Jackson State, I look at a Southern, where you should be good at all sports. Baseball, Texas is a baseball state, basketball, football. So what are you looking to do to elevate all those sports, not just football, even though I know that is, as they say, the gatekeeper, but for all your sports, and use that as an advantage?
So for us, it's about having a strategic plan that we're all operating from, right? We have what we call the 5 Panther pillars, and that's academic success, athletic success, career development, community service, and personal development, right? And so what I wanted to do was create a blueprint that everybody could follow. And what we do is we talk about any decision we make in the athletic department better correspond to making one of those pillars better. Right? If you come to me and you want to do something, some initiative, and I ask you, well, what pillar does it fall under, and how's it going to make it better? If you can't answer that, we're not doing it. Right? And so it's about, 1, having a strategic plan, 2, making sure the campus is like, you can't operate an athletic department in a silo. So I've been going around making sure folks on campus are buying into what we're trying to do and understanding how athletics can be a positive to everything they do, right? Athletics touches everything on campus, from your academics to your housing to your facilities and so forth, right? And so making sure that we're all operating off the same plan. And part of that is the president has, given me not just the charge, but the support. And so when the president supports you and you go into somebody else's office, the provost office or the VP of finance or another office, they understand that, hey, man, this is one of the president's priorities. And so now you can get some things moving. And so now we've got great facilities. But what I told people, our facilities is built in 2016. We can't stay still, right? If we're not getting better, we're getting worse. There's no staying the same. So trying to do things with our weight room, trying to do things in the athletic department, like with the football staff. This is the biggest football staff Prairie View's ever had, right? And so it's, once again, giving the resources to our student athletes so we can compete for championships.
Go ahead, Coach. I want to let you get in here because I know as a HBCU guy, what are you hearing when you hear AD Goff speak?
Well, just his professionalism and his guidance. Of course, we go back. He went to school with a childhood friend of mine, and I got him verified that he's a good HBCU guy. And Coach Goff, of course, I've been around the conference 40 years, and we've had outside guys like you come in as an AD as well as coaches, and really hadn't been successful. But the difference about you is that you actually played the game. You was a football player, and then the experience that you had at major schools as well as board. You've coached from the bottom to the top. So you went in, and Tremaine, I can't say enough about Coach Jackson. I've seen that kid. Well, I shouldn't call him a kid, but I've seen him grow to where you are. I just can't see you guys are like Batman and Robin. Just make sure, Golf, he understands you Batman now.
No, we good, man. It's a partnership. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I always tell him all the time, like, I ain't your boss, man. We partners in this. I'm gonna try to give you the resources, but once I give you the resources, I need you to be successful with them.
Yeah, and I also want to thank you for just taking my call, man. It was I gave you a 48-hour door window, and you was on it, man. So
It's all good.
I appreciate that as well. That you understand is talking to us and talking to HBCU it's important, because our clientele is, not necessarily just African American, but HBCU graduates, and now on the outside. You're going in this season with him. It's a lot of, I ain't gonna say pressure, but both of you guys are so positive. It's like Muhammad Ali, y'all Muhammad Ali. Oh. And then y'all pull this thing you guys about to pull off the scrimmage. You're actually moving it from Prairie View to Houston, man. I think, how did that come about? And the importance of it.
So what Coach wants to do, and we talked about this, is having a presence more in Houston, having a presence, in the state of Dallas. I mean the state of Texas, right? Whether that's Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, wherever it may be. Like, one thing we understand, right, is that when we recruit a student athlete, and I don't care if it's football, if it's softball, or any other sports we have, like, we're not just recruiting against SWAC schools because we're in the state of Texas. We got to fight the Stephen F. Austins, the Tarletons, the UTSAs, the Incarnate Words, right? And so it's about making sure that we've got a strong presence in Texas and making sure that we are competing at that same level of these guys, right? Because if we can't get them out of Texas, then we got to go somewhere else and get them. But being that we're here in Texas and we're part of that Texas A&M system, like, we've got to have a presence. And so we got to compete against those guys. But then we also got to compete against the Gramblins, the Southerns, and, all the way over to FAMU and all those guys too. So it's making sure that we are at a level that we can go into somebody's home and offer them a great experience and a great education.
What are some of the things, Coach Goff, that not only do you have your head coaching doing, and how important are them to carry the torch to the community? Do you have things already in place? And the reason why I say that is, you know, we think now in HBCUs that if we go hire a celebrity coach and then he take a picture with the governor or the mayor, to me, you know, all that stuff should be set up anyway by the athletic department. Don't care, because we're a state school and we need these people behind us. What is your plan or what you already got in process when a new coach come in?
Yeah, so obviously for us, what we did with Coach Jackson is get him out in the community, right? Like me and him have been everywhere, all over Houston, all over Cypress, up in the Woodlands, Tomball, Spring, whatever. Like going out, making sure we're shaking hands, meeting the people, letting them know what our vision is, letting them know how they can support us. You know what I'm saying? But then also, you know, our president does a great job with the state legislator to make sure that the school is getting funded at a decent level, right? Which then comes back to us, you know what I'm saying, when we need something. And then, you know, I'm in the process right now of doing a multimedia rights deal with a company that's going to come in, sell our corporate sponsorships, hopefully get some naming rights, and then also handle our tickets, right? Because other places I've been, like Michigan State, Northern Illinois, they've had those companies and those partnerships, right? And so we're looking probably signing something really soon that'll give us a different presence, right? And not be just an FCS, but that higher level FCS, that group of 5 that we're trying to compete against.
Yeah. One of the things, Coach, I came up there when y'all had the Labor Day Classic there, which I really think that you guys, and I'm putting my little 2 cents in, so go and get a promoter and have that game in Houston where y'all can make some real money. You know, I looked at the numbers. Of course, you know, I've coached on the other side. And that when I did go up to Prairie View, the parking was horrendous, you know, because it seems like the folks in charge at that time, I don't know if they put a precedence on it, because anybody knows running a business, you can only sell so many tickets, but the money is raised on parking and concessions. And both of those things was a big issue when you have a big game like that. You know what I'm saying? But Prairie View and Grambling, I think y'all up to almost what, $600,000-700,000 now from that game. And I think
Yeah.
Texas Southern and Prairie View should be way among that. You know, back in 1985, you know, I played in the first Labor Day class. That game should be way up. Go over those type things or talk about them or your plan, or even if it's on your desk or not.
Yeah, no. So just to be transparent, me and AD Granger, great friends, right? We're competitive
Yes.
rivals, whatnot, but we're great friends. I support him, he supports me. Days we're not playing, if they're playing, I go down to TSU and support that guy, right? And he does the same thing on my end. We're trying to figure out what we need to do. You know, a lot of people thought that Prairie View wouldn't want to play it back in Houston because it's a home and home, and I let everybody know, listen, if we can find a venue down there, whether it's at the place where TSU plays or if it's at another stadium down there in Houston, I'm good with it, right? Because I feel like, you know, most of our alums it's easier for them to get to the Houston area regardless, right? And so I don't have a problem with playing it and making it a true classic. And so we're looking at those type of things to see if it makes sense. This year we're going to do some things around the Labor Day Classic, do some things like a golf tournament on that Thursday or Friday, a sneaker ball or something, like in conjunction, us and TSU promote some events around the game to give it a little more hype. And then we'll start looking at, you know, possibly doing something with the game as well.
Well, let me speak. You know, I'm a big supporter of Al Wash, you know.
You know, I was gonna bring. That's what I was gonna bring up.
You know, he look, he ancient for that game, man.
No,
Hey,
I know you. I
y'all
know.
gonna let him get too old before, because if you looked at the numbers when he had the game, he raised more, he had more folks at the game than we've ever had. I mean, I just wanted to put that in there. You know, I had to,
No. Hey, Al's my guy. He talks about
yeah,
it all the
yeah,
time. I already know.
yeah,
I already know.
yeah, yeah.
And you know, the interesting thing about the business, you know, we've had Al Wash on the show, and the way that Al does the State Fair Classic, it's a great business deal for both universities. you know, you can't, to be honest with you, you can't always say that about every classic that every school is in. But you guys have gotten, Al Watch has provided a great deal for you and Grambling. And I think he could do a similar arrangement in a Labor Day Classic. And I'd love to see him put his entertainment spin on the Labor Day Classic, because he's a you know, he creates a spectacle around the game. And I think that's always a great way to get more people involved in that weekend.
But, you know, I just want to piggyback off that, because at one time, Prairie View didn't beat Grambling for almost 20 years straight. But the game was still the game. It wasn't necessarily just about the game. It was about everything around it. And I just wanted to throw that out, because I think that game should be down at that big stadium, man, and y'all go and fill that thing up and make $1 million a piece for each school. I think that's good. And I know if somebody can do it, Goff, you can get it going, man. Sometimes we need some big boys like you to come on in and help us out.
I hear you.
AD Goff, along those same lines, I want to ask you this, because there's a vacancy, if I'm not mistaken, with the women's basketball job. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what I want to ask, I just want to ask is, there's a superstar coach here locally in my area in Waco in McLennan County by the name of Candace Thomas. She actually happens to be a Prairie View alumni and was part of a team that was inducted into the Prairie View Hall of Fame. So, Coach, I was just wondering, I hadn't talked to Candace or anybody else, anything like that. But what's the timeline on wrapping up that hire and getting somebody in that position?
Yeah, so ironically, the position just closed today. I'm in the process right now looking through everybody. Now, obviously, I've had some conversations with some folks, but I got to look through everybody per HR. I'm taking off to go to the Final Four in San Antonio on Thursday. I'm looking to probably start interviewing when I get back. I'll get back Tuesday, so probably Wednesday, I'll start doing some interviewings. I'll pare it down. And then the week after that, probably mid to late April, maybe have some folks on campus if I'm not totally sold. And then I would say, shoot, man, before the end of April, maybe have an announcement. Like, I want to move on this quick because the portal's open. I want to make sure I get somebody quality in there, and then they can start working on their staff. But similar to the football search, I'm doing this on my own.
Oh, that's amazing. And someone said, I'm pitching a friend. No, I'm not pitching a friend. I'm pitching somebody who coached my daughter in college and who is a championship coach, who won I think the Region 5 JUCO championship and played for and went to the national championship up in Wyoming just last week. So it's not just my friend. It's an accomplished coach and somebody who is also a Prairie View alumni. That's why I brought her up. I wouldn't have brought her up if she had not been esteemed Prairie View alumni.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, Mr. Goff, in picking Tremaine, what was the things about him that you felt that he was a guy? I mean, of course, everybody know he played in the national championship. And then, of course, you mentioned some coaches from Penn State, Maryland, and I know it's some. What made him stand out from all the guys, or is there something that you've seen, or it was something that you were looking for?
Yeah, so there were some basic things I was looking for, right? I wanted somebody who came from a successful program. I wanted somebody who had success individually as well as team success. I wanted somebody who had great mentors, right? Because I really care. I really understand what mentorship is and how it can shape people's lives. And so those are some of the things I was looking for. I was looking for someone who was a great communicator, right? Someone who could come in, establish their vision, somebody who had alignment with me, someone who really cared about young men and transforming their lives. Because understanding at this level, there's not a lot of guys going to the league, right? But that doesn't mean you can't have a great impact on a young man and take them from a young man to a grown man. And when I talk about a grown man, I'm talking about somebody who leaves your university and can handle their business, right? I wanted somebody who, what I call a football guy, right? I've said this before, and those who are football guys understand. Not every football coach is a football guy. And I really believed we needed a football guy. I wanted somebody who understood the importance of what we call the triangle here, the Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, that area of recruiting, someone who could penetrate that area, but also wasn't just limited to that area, right? You know what I'm saying? But that area is important to us. Houston's important to us. Dallas is important to us. Those are our top places where our alums come from and are established. So, those type of things I wanted. So he checked off a bunch of those boxes. But when it came down to just being a man and being someone who I respected their integrity, someone who brought energy. Like I'm an energy guy, right? I want somebody who could walk in a room and you could feel that their presence is there, and someone who's excited about what they're talking about, who can sell a program. And he brought all that, right? And then when it just came with alignment, man, like just the values that he had as a man, the values I had as a man lined up, and I knew he was my guy.
Yeah, one thing, man, I want to take my hat off to you. And it's probably because I want this to get through HBCUs, and like you said, you went and talked with your president. She said, you the guy, you go hard, you're coach. You didn't let the street committee be involved. What's your philosophy about it? It ain't a right or a wrong. I think it is. I think the AD should have a plan about going to get a head coach and not worry about the street committee. And really, at the end of the day, unless I'm mistaken, in my 40 years being in black college football, there's not like a major donor, donating $1 million a year or something that you got to answer to. I know you got to answer to your president and stuff, but then again, after that, you walk out of that office, you putting it together. So what is your philosophy? Why did you think that you and you alone need to go get this coach?
Well, there was no shortage of volunteers who wanted to be on the committee, right? That were either alum or community members or faculty or staff, whatever, right? And so, and I respect that, right? And everybody has their opinion on who should have been the coach, and whether Bubba should have stayed, whether Bubba should have been let go, whether Tremaine was the right man or somebody else. And what I respectfully told everybody, I said, listen, at the end of the day, like whether this works out or not, as an alum, you can never not be an alumni. Once you graduate from Prairie View, you're an alumni for life, right? If you're on the search committee, whether you're an alum or not, when the search is over and the hire is made, you fade to black as a search committee member, right? I said, but I'm always going to be held accountable for whoever's hired. And I said, if I'm going to go down with the ship, or if I'm going to be held accountable for making a hire, I'm just going to make that hire without any influence, right? Because every person, has an angle, like, they want to get their person in there, or somebody calls them, or some people just want to be on a committee to say they was on the committee and want to know what's going on behind the scenes and feel like they got some special information. And I wasn't about that. I respect those individuals who applied for the job, who reached out, the confidentiality that I knew if their name got out, it was because I put it out there, and I knew I wasn't going to put nobody's name out there. Right now, there was a bunch of names out there that Prairie View's talking to this person, or Prairie View's about to hire this person, and it wasn't true. But I wasn't going to go out there refute nothing, because sometimes, agents put stuff out there for their client to try to, promote them, to help them out. And so if that's their hustle, that's their hustle, right? But I knew what I was doing, and I knew it was true and what wasn't true. And so, at the end of the day, if this hire isn't successful, I can't blame nobody, right? I can't go back and say, well, I listened to this alum, or I listened to this committee member. No, it's on me. But I also got the utmost confidence in what I'm doing, because I've been doing this for a long time. And I knew like I said, I felt like I knew what I needed and what Prairie View needed and what that football program needed. And I feel like I went out and I got it.
Yeah, because in my experience and being around, I see that you know, those are the most successful guys. It's so crazy on HBCU. We take a month, 2, 3 months to hire somebody to pay them $100,000 when you got some of these schools are paying these cats $5 and $6 and $7 and $10 million and making a decision in a week. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying because you're a football guy, you know, you kind of know what you need and what you're looking for, and especially uh, 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 you knew, like you said earlier, about the program. You knew about the football program, what they needed. They didn't need a, and I know I'm always on this. They didn't need a program. We need a football coach, a football man, and I get that. I take my hat off to you for that. I think that model should go through the whole HBCU. We don't need to be there that long, but we do need to be making the right choices.
And I'll add this too, John. I think because of the way I did it, a lot more guys were comfortable putting their interests out there, right, to the search firm and to me, because they knew it was just going to be between me and them, whether they got the job or not. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't going to jeopardize their job where they were, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't going to get out on their social media page at a P4 university. This guy's trying to get the Prairie View job. And so it messes with the recruiting for what they're trying to do out there. And so I think because I did it that way, like, it helped get the higher quality of candidates out there.
Now, AD, now, you know, we always make this joke, especially that one to my left over there, Rocky. You know, his resume did make a difference. It has something to do him getting in the pool because, you know, that's our joke. You know, some of these guys are being hired and have no coaching experience, man. You know, so that's a running joke.
Let me be fair. As a guy that's coming from outside HBCU sports culture, I would ask, why was this guy hired at this coach? And they'll say, well, he's the president's frat brother. Or he's so-and-so's line brother. I'm like, well, what the hell they got to do with football? You know what I mean? And it just didn't make any sense to me that would be part of the hiring process or part of the credentials that someone would bring to a football coaching position.
Yeah.
Well, we know AD Goff don't care nothing about that because he hired a Q, so we already know he threw that out the window.
You see, that's how us Kappas, that's how we work, man. We keep the eye on the prize, baby. We don't be all that frat stuff, man. We keep the eye on the prize.
That number of achievement, is that what it is, Coach Cole? Number of achievement.
That's it. It's about achieving.
Hey, AD Goff, I wanted to, and I'm glad, one of the things that I'm super excited about, I've been around and I know several of the ADs and things like that, and you start hearing good things, and we're hearing a lot of good things about you. So one of the things that I want to talk about, I want to ask you some AD stuff real quick. One of the big things that's about to happen, because we are on the FCS level, is that, from my understanding, that the whole SWAC conference is going to opt into the NCAA house settlement and scholarships and things like that. So from Prairie View standpoint, again, you don't have to reveal a lot of things, discussion with the commissioner had, but how's that going to affect Prairie View? What are you looking to do? How's that going to affect far as, NIL, stipends and, spreading scholarships around? Can you, because what happens, and the reason why I want an AD to talk about, we got a lot of people talking about this that have no clue what this is. So if you could, just kind of let people know, let your alumni know, and let the HBCU people know exactly what this is and how it's going to affect schools like ourselves.
Yeah, so the deal is with the house settlement, we've all opted in, which allows us to now compensate student athletes, right? And the house settlement was about a lawsuit where student athletes sued NCAA because they felt like they weren't able to use their name, image, and likeness and get paid for it, right? So we went back and we looked at from, I want to say 2013, somewhere around there, all the way up to 2022 or 2023, whenever the suit was first brought. Like, we back paid a lot of student athletes that were on scholarship that weren't able to do name, image, and likeness, right? And so the Power 5 at the time, which is now the Power 4 and the Group of 5, said, hey, we're going to pay this money, but we want everybody to pay into it, right? And so you had the opportunity to pay into it. If you were going to pay into it, you were now allowed to pay your student athletes. Scholarship limits were taken away, and what they do now is roster limits. So previously, before, they didn't have a cap on your roster limit, but we were only allowed as an FCS to have 63 full scholarships to divvy up however you wanted to divvy up, right? Now with and at the FBS level, Group of 5, Power 4, they had 85 scholarships, but they couldn't divvy them up. They were strictly, if you had a scholarship, you had a full scholarship. If you didn't, or there was no partial scholarships, it was just one scholarship. Where in FCS, we were allowed to break them up. So I could take a full scholarship. If I wanted to give somebody 50%, I could do that and split it in two. Well, what they did is they said, we're going to do away with that now, because the student athletes sued and they won. And so now what they did, regardless if you're FBS, FCS, the roster limit is 105. However many scholarships you want to put up to that 105, you can put it up to that 105. So if you want to have 105 full scholarships in football, you can do that. I don't think anybody's really going to do that. The SEC's already said they're going to stay at 85. A lot of the, I want to say the Big Sky and another, might have been Missouri Valley, another FCS conference already came out and said they're going to stay at 63. In the SWAC, we haven't set a number. We've said, do what you can do what you want to do. What that is now going to do is going to have some folks who are really football heavy is going to probably go above the 63 scholarship limit, 65, 70, 75, whatever that looks like. But now all of the sports, instead of having a scholarship limit, it's a strictly roster limit, right? And so you decide now how much you want to put into each of your sports. Like if you really feel like you can be good at baseball, you're probably going to fund that at a higher level than it was before, or whatever sports you feel like you want to be successful in, basketball, football, track, whatever that may look like. And so that's part of the new deal. The other thing is now, before, every state had a different NIL deal. Some states you could do NIL on your campus. Some states said no. Now you can bring NIL in-house. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to have an NIL fund now, right? Before I had to rely on everybody else to say, hey, if you want to be in a part of a collective, or if you want to do an NIL deal with one of our student athletes, that's between the student athlete and you. Well, now we'll be able to do that. So if I fundraise some money, or if I do corporate sponsorship and I put some of that money towards my NIL, I'll have a pot of money. And if my coach says, hey, I got a young man or a young lady that I want to give a certain amount of money, now I'm secure that I know we have that, or we don't have it, right? Before it, I wouldn't know what one of our student athletes deal was with an alum or a collective, because that was strictly between the student athlete and them. They just had to report whether it was over $600 or not. Now I'll know what we're doing. And then part of it is, if you've seen across the landscape, guys complaining about, hey, I got promised a certain NIL, I didn't get it. Now I'm going to sit out, I'm going to transfer. Well, you'll be able to minimize some of that stuff, because if I know that the student athlete and in our department have a certain agreement set, I'm going to know whether that student athlete's actually receiving those funds or not.
Now, AD Goff, one of the things I saw also is that we have the option, because of FCS, that we don't have to do the revenue share. That's the option. Is that correct? But I'm understanding.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody has that option. You can go up to, it's either 22% or 22 million. I can't know off the top of our head, right? So if I was making a whole bunch of money like Ohio State,
right,
then I'd be able to carve out 22 million. I'm not making that, so I can't revenue share something I don't have, but I can try to up our NIL game and cost of attendance and those type of things.
Well, the reason why I wanted to point that out, because that was one of the things that is a misconception. You hear me like, oh, people need to opt out. We shouldn't opt in because we're going to have to pay all this money. My point of it is, what we try to do is get factual, because, and which I understand a lot of fans like there, and I think we saw this in the chat, because I think what a lot of people are saying is, we didn't create this problem. Why are we being the burden with the problem, per se? You know what I mean? Looking at, hey, because they're looking at the Georgia's got to pay their student athletes $150,000. What does that mean for us? Like you say, FAMU, a Prairie View, a Grambling, Jack State. And let's be honest, we would love to do it, but I'm just being honest. I don't think any of our universities say, hey, we're going to pay all our student athletes $30,000. You know what I mean? Just $30,000.
Yeah.
That is just something that
if at any point an institution abided by the NCAA rules, you did contribute to the system that exploited players. And And I hear people from HBCUs say that all the time. But the fact of the matter, being part of an organization that exploited players, you did contribute to it.
Well, let me answer that. And I don't want, because I want to get back to AD Goff. Let me answer. See, AD Goff, this is why I got to jump on him. You can say that we were part of, and AD Goff understand this. The reason why we're part of is because of basketball. Let's be honest. That's what we are part of, the FCS part of the NCAA, because of basketball. But there are things, because AD Goff knows we do not have the voting power. We do not have the leverage for things that even we had to beg to have the Celebration Bowl. So even certain things like that, even your coach Tremaine Jackson tried to get with Dion to do, potentially have the spring game, and they shot that down. You know what I mean? So the thing about what I agree with you, Rocky, to the letter of the law, but the thing about it is we have always been academic mission focused, and athletics has always been part of our traditions. Now, AD Goff, I wanted to ask you another thing too, which I think is very important. When you're sitting back here looking at this, and this is kind of what it goes into, you talked about now the fundraising and bringing that in-house. Now, one of the things that I think that's just real important, and I think as far as value, is the season tickets. I think that's one of the things that I see that Jack say. I think AD Robinson doing some innovative way in his season ticket. He's going to take a piece to fund this fund. So can you talk about what you're looking to do to increase the season ticket sales? What does it really mean? Because I've seen some things that Prairie View is doing, but once again, this is one of those shows we like to get facts. So tell us what you're going to do, innovate, and is that going to be part of something that you look, maybe not this year, but maybe going down the line where you're going to be funding your NIL?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the things we've been talking about, and that's one of the reasons why I've done that multimedia rights deal. So when I bring that organization in-house that'll do our corporate sponsorship, do our ticketing, that'll be part of how we carve out some of our NIL deal. For us, season tickets are super important. We did a really good job last year with our season tickets. Anybody who's out there that wants to buy season tickets, go on pvpanthers.com, hit the ticket button, get your tickets. And if you want to be able to RV tailgate at homecoming, get your season tickets, because those are the folks going to be able to get the RV spots first. So go and get your season tickets now. But so everything we do, and when we do guarantee games, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, we're going to look at, being able to carve off a piece of that, you know what I'm saying, to put into our NIL pot. Coach Jackson, we just launched a brand new 35 for 35 campaign for Coach Jackson, right? You know what I'm saying? He's our 35th head coach. And so we're asking every alum, every booster, everybody that cares about the program, give $35 or more, trying to get him $350,000 so he can use at his discretion, whether that's part NIL, whether it's part buying equipment, upgrading our weight room, those type of things just for football. We're putting that in the football excellence account. And so, doing those type of things, right? We're going to be able to bring somebody from the advancement. We just revamped our advancement office, right? It was part of it was the foundation, part of it was the Office of Development. Now that's going to be under one roof. Our vice president is designating somebody just to do athletic fundraising that'll look at our annual giving, our major gifts giving, and our state giving just for athletics. Be able to have tiered giving, so those when you give, you can get certain benefits. And so we're revamping the way we do it. Like I am trying to take everything that I have had at a PWI or Bowie State or wherever and bring that here. And maybe we're not doing as big as Texas A&M, but we're going to have the same type of structure, mentality, philosophy to get us to the next level.
Well, let me ask you this, AD Goff, because this is something that's very confusing to me as a person to understand the business of collegiate athletics. When you talk about schools like the University of Texas and stuff like that, they always talk about how much money they're able to give back to the school because they have, excess or overage or whatever, right? When HBCUs talk about athletics, they always talk about it as being a deficit or something that is a drag on the overall budget of the institution. My point of saying this is that when money is generated, just take the State Fair Classic, for example. Is that money added to the athletic budget, or is that money added to the general fund of the school?
So I don't know where it happens anywhere else. I can tell you, Prairie View, the money comes to the athletic department, and we use it for our operations and things that we're doing. And that's why, like when we do like for instance, I negotiated to play Michigan State last year, right? They paid us a guarantee that helped us get out there, get back, but it didn't also help us throughout the season with our expenses. And so we get our money back. I can't tell you what everybody else does because I hear stories that, hey, I play this game and it goes, I never see the money, and it is what it is. At Prairie View, we got a good deal. I can't complain. As far as what's funny, you talk about, a place like Texas gives back money. What people don't know is that the number of schools who generate a profit in athletics is super, super small, right? Even at the P4 level, most of those guys run a deficit, right? You know what I'm saying? And so you can't look at it as just whether they are operating in the black or the red. You got to look at the intangible things that an athletic department brings, right? Nowhere else on campus are you going to bring, and I'll just take Prairie View, but you can do this at any school. Nowhere else at Prairie View are they going to bring in 15,000 people, right? There ain't no professor, no lecture, no classroom. There's nothing else but football that's going to bring 15,000 people. And you take that at, say, Northern Illinois, we got a stadium of 35,000. You go to Michigan State, stadium at 85. There's no other events that bring that many people, right? There's no other department that brings the number of eyes to your university. Like, we were able to play on ESPN every single game that we had, especially home games, right? How else do you get that number of people to look at Prairie View, right? They see it, they look at it. Next thing you know, our website starts getting hit. They start learning more about Prairie View, right? Athletics is the front porch to the university, right? Now it could be a detriment too, because you could put a black eye on the university if you do something crazy, right? But it's the one thing that brings the eyes, the traffic. And so you have to look at the intangible things that an athletic department brings, right? It creates school spirit, right? It helps alumni giving back, right? Which when you do your US News World Rankings, alumni get back is part of those rankings. And athletics plays a huge part of that, right? Because athletics brings out the emotion in folks, right? And so, those type of things that people need to look at, you know what I'm saying? If you look on a campus, every campus I've been on, the student athletes graduate at a higher rate than the general student population. The GPA is higher for student athletes than it is for the general student population, right? And so you're talking about bringing great students, you know what I'm saying, to your university because of athletics that wouldn't have come if you didn't have athletics. And so those are the things people need to think about and take in consideration when they talk about the value of an athletic department.
I'm glad you said that, because I believe that the intrinsic value of athletics, a successful athletic department, is actually, what do they say? What's the commercial that says priceless? Like, you can't, to be honest, if you guys win the Celebration Bowl or a national championship at the FCS level, Prairie View doesn't have the budget to afford the kind of exposure that would give it. For that reason, I always think that institutions should fully fund their athletic department, whatever that means, and they shouldn't look for the athletic department to reimburse them for budgetary expenditures. And that's what it seems like they want the athletics to do. They give athletics a $3 million budget, and they use all the revenue generated around athletics to recoup that $3 million. I don't think it should be done that way. I think you guys at Prairie View have the right model, that if the money's generated by athletics, it's best suited that money go back to those student athletes, coaches, and staff that literally generate those opportunities to make money.
Absolutely.
Now, AD Goff, I'm going to hit you with a little bit of a joke, but this is something that I found a little bit of an answer, needs a question to. Now, I have a special person out there, and their mother is class of 1959 at Prairie View A&M University. proud alumnus, Ann Williams. Now, she has a question she wants to know. She is in the Dallas area, and she's up in age. She supports Prairie View with her money and her time. But she wanted to know, and you talked about, is there any way that game that you play in Dallas against Ground can get back on TV and maybe generate some revenues from a broadcast standpoint? Is that something that, has that been discussed, as far as, getting that game on TV and maybe getting another revenue stream going?
So with TV, obviously with Al, we'd have to talk with Al about that. I don't see why it couldn't or shouldn't be on TV. It's a great game. It's a classic. What happens is that, with classics, sometimes they don't want to put them on TV because they want to drive the folks to the actual game. But I don't see why it's not on TV or shouldn't be on TV.
Well, I'm just going to tell you. So as they say, the old heads wanted to know. So I had to make sure I asked that, because one of the things that I know that you're in, and I saw at the press conference with Coach Jackson, and I, seeing something. I think one of the things, and I think you're learning, which because you've been around this, the older alumni who have loved these schools, who have always, they're going to be the ones when you ask for that first dollar, they're going to be the first one to give you that dollar. So those are one of the things that I know that you hear about, the things like the parking and things like that, all those different things that you have to worry about, the little things. I know our AD is like, hey, when we gonna get the bathroom fixed? So all these things that even at a high level, like you're saying, while you're balancing balance sheets, you're trying to make sure there's toilet seats in the bathroom and things like that. So can you talk a little bit, from a more grounded thing, that some of the alumni that you're looking at, that they've kind of say, hey, AD, we're glad you're here, and some of just, smaller thing that you say, you know what, Mr. Campbell, this is something I saw that we're going to change and make better, because I think that's something I've heard that you've been doing too also.
Yeah. So what I try to do is I try to look at everything from the ground up, right? Fan experience is important to me. So I've been working with our police department on campus, with our parking, trying to figure out, when we have these big games, because I expect to have a big crowd, right? And so, figuring out ways to get folks on campus, off campus in a smoother direction, working with our auxiliary services, to make sure we're cutting the lines down when it comes to concessions, being able to, try to go as digital as much so folks can get through the lines. You know what I'm saying? Those type of, like, the game experience is really important to me. We put a survey out there asking for feedback, like any ideas that people have come up. Some people have come up with some great ideas and we've tried to implement them. Some people have come up with some crazy stuff and I have to be like, nah, that's so outside left that I'm not even gonna look at that. But really having some more fan experience. And then pregame, right? For me, like, I want to create a mini homecoming feel every game, right? Homecoming at PV is off the meters, right? Like 60,000 people RVing. I had never seen nothing like that in my life. Now, I hadn't been at some big schools and homecoming big that day, but to start seeing RVs roll in there on a Wednesday and don't roll out until a Sunday was an experience, my first homecoming, right? And so, I know we can't do that every game, but 5 times a year, I feel like we should have something similar, right? That our fans would come up early, and that alleviates some of the traffic. Everybody, if we play at 2:00, everybody can't show up at 1:15, 1:30, right? And expect to just roll in and go to a parking spot, right? Like, so, trying to have that type stuff, man, and listening to the folks. Like, I understand, like, it's frustrating to sit in the line. I get to campus super early, so I never have to deal with that. But, trying to make sure that we're providing a great fan experience as well as a student athlete experience, because having fans in the stands, having students in the stands creates a home field advantage, right? When you have that support as a former student athlete, understand you play a little harder when the stands is packed and the band is playing hard for you and those type of things. And so making sure that we have that for our student athletes is important to me.
AD Goff, as we wrap up, as a PV father, my daughter is a senior at PV, and she'll be graduating next year. And so it's been a great experience for us at Prairie View. And for that reason, I'll always be a supporter and a donor to Prairie View. And I look forward to all that you guys do. It's a top-notch university. You get a top-notch education. And some of the most successful people in Texas and in the country are Prairie View alumni. what can be done to do two things? One, get them to come to home games. Two, and the other thing is to get them to support the athletic programs that's in keeping with the prosperity that they're experiencing in other areas of their career and their life. You know, what can be done to kind of get them more involved, for the lack of a better word?
So I think for us, you know, making sure that we're having those touch points, right? You can never have too many touch points, whether it's social media, whether it's emails, whether it's calls, whether it's hosting events. Like we've started hosting a lot more events. Like Houston's a big city, right? And so, you know, putting events in Houston, putting events in the northwest suburbs, what we call the I-99 corridor, going from the Woodlands all the way down to Katy, right? Making sure that we're engaging Waller County, right? Folks out at Waller County. You never want to forget the folks where you're housed at, right? But I think we're going to we're just scratching the surface right now. But I think we're going to continue doing a great job because we are now revamping how we do things, right? We've never had somebody who was a full-time fundraiser just for athletics, right? Designated for we've never had a multimedia rights to, like, I'm amazed that so many of our facilities aren't named after any corporations. Like we've never done, like it's still called Panther Stadium. The stadium was built in 2016. Like I want to go out there and find somebody and put their name on it, right? Which once again generates more revenue, creates a better experience for our student athletes, our fans. And so those are the things that we're looking at doing. And like I said, been here a year and a half. I dream big. I'm trying to do big things, and we're going to get that done. Believe that.
It you know, a lot of people will in the SWAC will say it has an unofficial sponsorship or stadium title. It's called, some people would say it's called Mumford West. You know, which is Southern,
we can never
which is
see,
no. I'm just saying. There's some people that would say
always have a train wreck before the end of the show.
No. Some people would say that it's Mumford West, Coach, and we got to get that fixed, Coach. We got to get that fixed.
That's top on the agenda, right? But what I do know, last time I was over there at Southern, we won.
Tell me, Goff.
I mean, I don't know a lot. I don't claim to know a lot, but I know last time I walked up in that stadium, I walked out there with a W.
There you go. That's what I want to hear. Now, Eddie, I gotta say one thing. Now, I just got a text. Now, the class of '59 has given you a seal of approval. So that's a big deal. So I'm gonna figure out a way for you to sign a hat for Miss Williams or something like that.
Absolutely.
Get that because she is watching, and we are happy that she is watching.
Absolutely.
And she is super excited that you're there, AD. So AD, we really appreciate you being on, and
I appreciate
we look forward to you to talk about the championships that you will be playing FAMU against. You know what I mean? Bring you back on and talk about that. And once again, one thing before we go, tell everybody how they can get the tickets and how they can donate money. We'll close it out like that.
Yeah. So pvpanthers.com, right? You go on there, you can buy your tickets, you can hit the donate button, you can give to whether it's the Football Excellence Fund, the AD account, or any other sport that we have of our 18 sports, right? Give, buy. Come out to the Panther Stadium, come out to the Baby Dome, and make sure you support the Panthers.
There it is. AD Goff.
I'll share the screen right quick. AD Goff, if you don't mind, with you here. And it looks like, looks like it's pretty simple. We got tickets right here.
Yep.
We got the 35 for 35 banner up. Yep. Looks like it's pretty easy, AD Goff. There's no excuse.
And you got the donate button right there. You got the school store. Like, we just redid this whole website because I wanted to make it easier for people to find things and for people to give.
Absolutely. Hey, AD, I want to personally thank you for coming on, man. Like I say, during the hiring process of Coach Jackson, you were such a nice man. When I would send you an email, you would return my calls and tell me absolutely nothing. But I appreciated the phone call and you being upfront. And you wasn't shifting the responsibility to anybody. You said you were the guy that was gonna make the call. When it was time, you were gonna make the decision. And I'm happy that you made what I would consider the best hire of this hiring cycle, in my opinion.
I appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, Coach. All right, Mr. Campbell. That was a tremendous interview right there. I don't know why it's a train wreck, because you know those Southern guys. I'm surprised Adrian Crook ain't in here today. He would have appreciated that comment, calling it, you know, because he always refers to it as Mumford West.
Well, see, this is the thing about it. See, we invite people in our house, and then every once in a while, you got to kick them out without a drink. You know, nothing to eat or anything like that. See, and we want people to come back to this house and see every time you got to start. And see, the thing about you, see, you start trouble, and you're not part of none of these fan bases. See, you just chucking grenades, and then you can walk out the door. You see what I'm saying? We got my PV folks all in here representing, and then you're going to chuck a grenade, and then you're going to keep walking. See, we can't have that, man. We can't.
For sure. But we have, hey, man, this is a great show. We had AD Goff on. He gave us a lot of great content. I also would like to have him on at some point before the season starts, man, so that we can, so he can let us know what we can expect this upcoming season. Looks like they have a lot of things in motion over there at Prairie View, and looks like they'll have some things solidified this summer. And I look forward to hearing about everything that's going to be going on and this upcoming season. But with no further ado, I'm gonna have to drop you off of this live, because we have a FAMU person we're bringing up, Mr. Campbell. At this time, you can go ahead and disconnect.
No, see, there you go. There you'll start in trouble. Listen, one of the things that we like to do here on HBCU Coaches Corner, because we talk a lot about what the alumni do. We talked about the street committee, but one of the things I wanted to do, and I'm super excited to bring on the next part, to really talk about how the Alumni Association and athletics intertwine and how they work together. So I am super excited to bring on Florida A&M's NAA president, Curtis Johnson.
Hey. What's
Hey,
wow. I can't believe I'm still up this time of night, my brother.
Listen, man, Curtis, we knew it was late, but see, wait, man, you know, we got to have to close out the show. You know what I mean? Close out the show.
Let's put it like this. You know, it's Tuesday night. I'm in Tallahassee. Now, if it's Wednesday night, I'll be heading over to Top Flight for some chicken wings.
Now, Rocky, now listen, I'm going to set this up, because let me tell you something. I've known Curtis for a long time. We went to school together. Curtis is one of those people. See, this is what's so great about this, and we're going to talk about this. You know, when you have people on campus and they superstars and they always doing the right thing, and, you know, people look up to them and stuff like this. Curtis is one of them people. Hey. And then the boy that grown up, and now he's the alumni president leading us and things like that. So, Curtis, I'm super excited. I'm super proud of you. But one of the things, and I want to start this off because I think this is so important. As you said, sports and alumni, of course, intersect. There is no sports without alumni participation, being in the stands, financing, and things like that. So I want to start with this, and then we're going to go back to the overall point of view. Now, Rock, I know you remember this. We had just come off of Celebration Bowl, HBCU National Championship. I got the word that our coach potentially was going to leave. And this man put out the call to all the alumni, and in 48 hours, raised over $150,000 plus. And Curtis, I could be wrong, but this was because I'm part of some of the DSOs, that there were commitments to up to $500,000 of $25,000. Can you walk us through how that you galvanized the rallies to raise that, and how that process went with your communication with the AD to get that going?
Yeah, well, hey, it was I recall it vividly, man. We were doing a Christmas holiday season, making it more important, right? We had just come off this Celebration Bowl victory, and the word started to get out that, hey, Coach Simmons at that point was not re-signed, and that we needed to really kind of figure out what we needed to do and to keep this train together, keep all the passengers and coaches on that train, and set up for the repeat. And so, you know, Rattler Nation started as we usually do. People started having conversation. Phones started ringing. Social media started buzzing. People called me. The AD called. I said, okay, well, what's the number? And she made a call to all of the direct support organizations, to include the National Alumni Association, the Boosters, F Club, 220 Club, Rattlers Alone, certain fraternities, sororities. We all came together in our unique way to say, how do we put forth this genuine effort to make sure she has the funds to keep our coach at that point. And we went to work. We went to work in a monumental way. The Alumni Association has always and will always support athletics, particularly football, but we support all athletics. And we really take our cue from the actual Rattler Boosters. They are the official direct support organization of all sports, right? So it's not just football, it's baseball, volleyball, everything we do, all 13, 14 athletic programs. And so we usually defer to them. And I usually defer to my NAA members. Hey, if you really are into sports, you also have to be a member of the Rattler Boosters because they directly, all of those funds go to the sports program. We take on not only sports, we have scholarships. We help to recruit students to FAMU. We help to keep students in school when they need a little change. They run into a little deficit and to keep them on track. And then, of course, we connect those students when they graduate to alumni chapters across the United States. So that's kind of our role. But Steve, like I said, the call went out. We raised these monies. And to this date, we weren't successful in retaining Coach at that point, but we got our next coach hired, which is Coach Cozy. And what we were able to do is take those funds and put them into something that helped plug a gap. And as I listened to the previous guest you had on, we had gaps. We had things that we needed a fund to support the coach and his staff. What we were finding is that the football staff, if they had to fund bonuses, to fund the things that he needed to help his staff to do and recruit staff to work with him, we were able to fill that gap, and we still have those funds to this day. Every now and then I'll get an email from Coach Cozy saying, hey, we just won this bowl or we've accomplished this, and here's a level of bonus that I need to pay out. And I go to my board, I present that information to the board, and we move those funds to his account so that he can compensate his assistant football coaches and staff.
Curtis, I wanted to ask you something because you talked about this mass amount of money being raised, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things, and we keep it real here. You know, one of the things that people are always leery of, where's the money going? Where did the money go? Is it sitting there? Can you really talk about the checks and balances, how the alumni, when you're donating money like that, and why we can feel comfortable? And and this goes for a lot of alumni associations do the same thing, but kind of talk about that process, because what we have is a fear of a lot of people scared to give money. You know, what they're going to do with the money, who's getting the money, somebody's buying a car with it. So kind of talk a little bit about that process and how that works, and that the money is still there and like you say, and being utilized.
Absolutely. So all of these funds, we have specific designated accounts in the FAMU Foundation, right? So we take those monies and we put them in these, what we call restricted accounts. And so those funds are not commingled with any of the operational account monies that I need to run the National Alumni Association. So we have a specific account, what we call the Football Coaches Compensation Account. And we have a specific number. So even if somebody wanted to give a gift to that account, it will go directly there. Those funds are there. And the only way those funds are dispersed is it's triggered from Coach Cozy. So he'll send a request to our AD. She's copied on the email. It comes to me. And then I take that request to the board, the National Alumni Board. And so they see it and they see the request. And this is how much money, this is the balance in the account. And after we make this money, this is what's left, right? And so everything is above board. We turn it over to Coach Cozy. And Coach Cozy then will take it in his account and disperse it to his respective coaches that, you know, deserved or won the actual financial contribution that he's seeking. We have nothing to do with it. We're simply we receive the money and we disperse the money where it's supposed to go. And we have a very strict accounting of that. We have to fill out these forms and it's all on file. And so it's all there.
Let me ask you this, Curtis. And I want to say, when I had the opportunity to visit FAMU, when you guys played for a SWAC championship, you and your alumni, I was able to attend one of your functions with Mr. Campbell there, and your alumni was gracious, and it was a very delightful event that evening. So I want to thank you for that, because I felt like part of the family just for a day.
Yes. Come on back anytime.
So, but what I wanted to ask you, and I'm asking as an outside person, you guys, through the hiring of Coach Cozy, there were some things revealed about FAMU we got to see how the sausage is made, so to speak, because of that process. And everybody we got to see everybody's kind of role in the process. And I just want to ask you, being that you are president of the NAA and you've been part of several processes, is it usually as clunky as it was during that process to get the business done? Or was it especially, I guess, clunky just because of it was around football and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I think at that point, the culture at FAMU was at a point where we had an AD who had come to us and hired, and so it was the first process that she was bringing through with the hiring of a new football coach. And so when you have a new AD at that point, and you have all of this historic culture of way things have kind of been, you kind of have to really know how to massage and do that dance. And so there were a number of people that was really trying to rally around the AD to support, to say, hey, we have some norms, we have some traditions. And sometimes, the Rattler Nation, that we're very strong about some of our traditions. And sometimes it does feel that way, but you have to also embrace it, because those are the same people you're going to go back to say, hey, I need money. I need to raise money. I'm going up on ticket prices. I'm doing all this stuff. And those are the people that's going to carry that water and make sure that things are smoothed over. And so I think as we work through that process, unfortunately, it all played out for the public. We tend to kind of do that here. It made, I think, for a better process. I think ultimately people had a sense of buy-in. And I think that, one of the things that I always have to respect about FAMU, we are that type of institution that, we're FAMU. We have some disagreements with the family. We rally, but when we come out as FAMU. And we're coming against everybody else that's coming against FAMU at that point. But we do have a few dust-ups every now and then. But I think it makes us stronger. I think that as we are growing and we are building that and have that appreciation for our culture, there are going to be some more fights that's going to come, and they're going to be much bigger than football. And it's going to be important that we have Rattler Nation galvanized to take on those challenges that we're facing, not only in the state of Florida, but on a national level as well.
I was also, very impressed. You guys have some very esteemed alumni that was a part of the process.
Yeah.
And what we witnessed was being part of the FAMU family is something that everybody in that process takes very serious. Meaning that it almost got personal at one point during the process. And I was just wondering, how does a institution, because my daughter she'll be graduating from Prairie View soon.
Yeah.
Prairie View alumni is not that connected the way that FAMU's, and they don't take things personal that happen on the Hill the way it seems like the people at FAMU took things personal about what was happening on the highest of Seven Hills. How do y'all keep, what I'm asking here is, what is your role in keeping y'all so connected and so involved in what's going on FAMU campus, even after you graduate and move on or whatever? It seems like there's lots of people connected and involved in what's going on and have a vested interest in how things turn out.
FAMU is a very special place, man. People have joked to say, "Oh, it's a cult." And sometimes I tend to agree, right? We have dust-ups. But we know how to come together, and I think you saw that, right, when you came here. Those same people that will challenge you and may rearrange a few alphabets in their strong conversation with you are the same people that will invite you to the tailgate, have your cocktail and share food, and you get over it, right? I think one thing about Rattlers is you have to have tough skin. And from day one, and Steve, you talked about this, we just have this thing that we put you in this system here, and it just naturally produces diamonds. And literally, it's built to pressure test, and people succeed at it. And because of that, they have an affinity and love. And don't get me wrong, they're very opinionated, very strong about some things. Sometimes we air all of our information out on social media, and sometimes it's not accurate, right? But it's for the love of FAMU. Those people still have a love of FAMU, and sometimes we have to try to get it right to help them understand that there's another way to do this. And then more importantly, let's be factual. Let's get the right information if you're really going to go out there and put it out there, so that you at least don't come off not being fully informed. And sometimes we tend to do that. And one thing I can tell you, and this is a word of warning to you, Rocky, don't get in the middle of this FAMU dust up, right? We gonna go at each other, right? And Steve and I may go at each other, but don't you come in there messing with us, because both of us gonna turn on you, and then it's gonna be on, right? You're gonna get bit everywhere by rattlers at that point. So
Curtis,
just stay out of it.
He has
Leave it alone.
been several times by these rattlers. We try to tell him, which leads into something about your position. Now,
Yes.
one of the things about you were on, as they say, the hiring panel and things
Yes.
like that for
Yes.
and I'm pretty sure if there are other coaches. Well, you being the alumni president, now we know what the 80 is looking for. We'll know what some of the other. With you as being alumni president, when you put on this panel, what is your charge, and what are you looking as far as you're representing the alumni, as far as giving your input on the hire?
So I'm listening to alums, right? So I'm in these groups. I'm listening. I'm fielding phone calls. I'm making observations, because you're around the program. You kind of hear things. You kind of know kind of what is characteristics that you're looking for, right, to be able to walk into. And then that's always a very strong thing, because you're walking into a very strong culture, very strong. And you've got seasoned rattlers. You've got young rattlers. You've got very wealthy and very well-known rattlers, and you've got rattlers that just don't care and will hang out there and put it all out there, right? And so that's difficult for some people. And when you know that, you're looking for certain things in these processes to kind of see, and you're doing your background work to kind of understand the type of people, because you're going to be put into a pressurized system. And you've got to be able to make sure that person can really stand that, and you have to support them. But I'm listening to Rattler Nation. I'm listening, doing my homework, and I'm trying to see what's the right fit for what we're trying to do.
So I want to address something that I said earlier. It says Rocky, I'm lost at Rock. That's a shot. What I mean by Prairie View alumni is connected. My daughter is attending school. Just about everybody in my community here in Waco knows she's attending and has supported her and encouraged her in some form or fashion. Individually, they are connected. I'm talking about the business on campus is what I'm talking about. How I don't see the Prairie View alumni being connected in that way. Because you guys are certainly connected as a community, but y'all also are concerned about the business that's going on campus as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at all levels. So, you know, right now, we are searching for the next university president, right? And I'm on that search committee as well, representing alums. And so we just had a meeting here on Monday, and we had a lot of great applicants, and we kind of whittled that down here. But people are connected. They're talking. They're sharing information. They're concerned. And then they're concerned about what happens day in and day out on that campus, right? If customer service is one of the big things I hear a lot of from alums, right? I get those calls. Hey, my daughter, my son applied, and they have this, they have that, and I feel those questions, right? And they reach out to me, and some of them feel connected, and I get I triage them to the right area and get them right information, and that's a part that we play as alums, to be that communication source back to it. We try not to get in it because they have their rules, but we try to at least get information back to the presidents and region vice presidents so they can inform. But we do stay involved. You know, that's one of the things that I got to just share this about why we need to continue to protect national alumni associations, especially FAMU, because, you know, we're in the state of Florida. And what I do know about the alumni association here is that, yeah, you see some things, but there are a lot of things that don't get recognized that this alumni, some associations will do. I'm talking about the recruitment of students, because some of these kids never heard of FAMU until people in their community, a guidance counselor, retired teacher, or somebody brings up FAMU to these kids, and they bring them to this campus, and they see all of these beautiful people walking around and having great educational experience. But they also don't see these chapters that put together these send-off parties, when they get these kids together after they've been accepted, and they wrap their arms around them and they say, okay, you're going into the nursing program. We've got alums that know the dean of nursing or came out of that program. So you call me if you got challenges or you need extra help. And not only is that, but they gather materials and supplies, and they send these kids to FAMU. And then these chapter presidents are checking in with these kids. When they come home, they have their respective zip code parties, area code parties. We call them 772 or 850 or whatever those area codes are. And they get these kids together for the holidays, say, how did it go? What do you need? Those are wraparound support services that this alumni and many alumni associations pay. And that's why it's important, and why I fight so hard to make sure we maintain this status, because those are things that other PWIs are not doing to support these students. And it makes a difference, right? When these kids have a deficit of $500 or $350 and they can't register because of that, well, that's when alumni step in and make sure that these kids graduate on time, that they keep matriculating through FAMU and just don't drop out, because that actually penalizes and hurts FAMU, because unlike any other the HBCUs that you have on your background, we are a state state performance-based system. So we have to measure up. We have to hit certain milestones to receive funding. Some of those institutions behind you are state funded. They just get funds from the state and they have it. Well, they put some criteria and some benchmarks on how you're going to get money here in the state of Florida. And guess what? It's not just FAMU in there. We're competing against University of Florida, South Florida, Central Florida, all of the other public institutions. And we're expected to hit those same marks. There's no excuses, right? So we need those wraparound services to make sure our kids are nurtured and our kids are supported, and need that. And so that's the importance of the Alumni Association, and why we work so hard and why we're so passionate and stay so involved with these kids from day one.
Now, Curtis, I know one of your major initiatives is growing the Alumni Association.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found interesting, and we're talking about this using that athletic lens. One of the things that I saw, and I know you saw this, and maybe you can talk a little bit about it, that our Alumni Association partnered with Alabama State's Alumni Association in Dayton, Ohio, to, as you say, that care package to send that team. How do the different Alumni Association, because we all, even though we compete on the field, we all family. So do the Alumni Association, when we get together on athletic events, you meet the Alumni Association president, we'll work together to have a great game day experience, or things like that, where we can support each other if we've got a school in town, for whatever reason. So that's something that that you have knowledge of. That's something that you encourage the alumni chapters to do, and also by getting more alumni, we could do more things like that.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we do, there is a network of alumni NAA presidents, right? So I've been on with most of the alumni presidents in the background there. And we have a network. We talk, we support each other. We ultimately all have the same challenges, believe it or not. It doesn't matter if you're in Alabama or you're in Florida, it's still the same, right? And it's all about how do we get more of our actual graduate alums to be active members of these associations, right? So we have to overcome perceptions, things that happen to them, and building that value of why they need to become a member of the Alumni Association. It's not too difficult to recruit them back for homecoming, and they have a great experience, but it's beyond that, right? We want you to have a great experience, but there's a part that you contribute to that will be cemented in legacy, that will allow for you to support the people coming after you. And that's where we have to really kind of shift that understanding to say, hey guys, have a great time at homecoming, but also make some of that money. Let's peel back some of that money you out there having a great time with and spending out there, turning up. Just take 100. That's all. It won't stop the party. Trust me, it's still enough to go around. but take 100 and invest in your membership. Get your membership or get your life membership, because those funds, particularly with us, they're restricted. When I've gone on to the great gates beyond, that money is still going to be here, spending off interest, supporting kids at Florida A&M. And I'd rather have it that way. If I've got to miss a party to do that and get my life membership, which I've done, many, many years ago, that's what it should really be about. And so, but yeah, we do, Steve, we do network. When we do go to visit other schools, there's a camaraderie there. We do meet with those other presidents. They do host us. We do have conversations, and we all kind of work together.
Now, I'm gonna say, Rocky, I gotta set one thing, and I think Curtis understands it. The reason why people know our business because we have something called the Sunshine Law in the state of Florida. So there's nothing that we can hide, and Curtis can talk a little bit about that. When he has official meetings and things like that, that's on record in the state of Florida. So that's why, Rocky, why you say you might think we're in it is because people see it. A lot of states do not have these same laws that we are held against, and I think that also shows that we're not afraid, as they say, to make the sausage made. Because, Curtis, I will tell you this channel, we show a lot of things about how FAMU is run. But I tell you what, we got a lot of respect because a lot of people saw that we were not afraid to have difficult conversations in public.
Right. Yeah, no, we have to operate in the sunshine here. So our meetings are public. We have to public notice them. We allow public comment. There's certain records that we have Freedom of Information Act that they can request, but there are some records that are not subject to FOIA. So, I mean, we have this stuff that we have to put out there, and we're happy to have the conversation with people, with alums, and, some accept it, some don't, right? But it is what it is, but we do have to operate, and we do operate in the sunshine.
I just want to ask you a question. As a alumni, and you've addressed some of this, but what are some of the challenges of fundraising at a HBCU, within the HBCU Alumni Association? Because to be perfectly honest, resources are always a topic of conversation when it comes to HBCUs. And so how is it particularly challenging or beneficial or whatever the situation and circumstance is around HBCUs? Why does resources always a topic of conversation? And then how important it is, how does the alumni chapters factor into that?
So I think that's a great question. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I'm gonna try to paint a picture that will help. One of the challenges I think we as HBCUs have that I don't know, and it still may exist at other PWIs, but we have so many schools, so many programs, so many organizations that have need at HBCUs. And unfortunately, everybody is asking probably some of the same people over and over and over, right? And so what we've got to try to do is cast a little wider net to spread that ask about, right? So I'll give you an example. We have a great band here, right? And so the band has a really big need when you move that amount of people to football games. So the people that obviously played in the band that's their thing, right? I mean, they want to make sure that band is supported and they want people to, but we also have sports, right? All of these different sports. We got basketball, baseball, volleyball, everybody, right? That has a need. And literally when our teams travel, and I'm not talking about the big revenue, I'm talking about the small revenue sports, the tennis, the swimming, the track, the baseball, softball, they travel. Alums are meeting them there with care packages, right? So again, you're asking those people that's contributing over, and so you have that, and then now you have the National Alumni Association, right? We're asking because we have to support these kids academically through FAMU. You've got the boosters asking, right? Because they got all of these sports that they got to do, and so somehow we've got to really figure this thing out. And I was really on earlier listening to your prior guest and how they begin to align their advancement department. And you're going to probably see a lot more of that from our thing. We're having these conversations now. It's kind of funny. I think it's spreading around all HBCUs. We've got to figure this out. We've got to figure out a universal ask that will support all of the programs. And then we got to get to more people. We've got to expand our communication and our touch point beyond those really super committed rattlers, right? And I'll say this, so here, I'm always trying to be very transparent. We've got over 80,000 plus graduates at FAMU. Now, of course, people, deceased, et cetera. But if you just look at the records, 80,000 plus. I've got about 5,000 that are active paid members of the National Alumni Association. 5,000. When I came in 3 years ago, I set a goal that we needed to get to 10,000 paid members. Because that 10,000 is not only financially, but it's an advocacy group that when people say you got 10,000 people, they pay attention. That the 10,000 can shift a lot of things, especially in the state of Florida, right? Mm-hmm. So those are things that I think about because I'm involved with a lot of things in the state of Florida is that, okay, I got to get this group to 10,000. So now I got to build my infrastructure to handle that. Well, we are a 501c3, all 100% volunteer organization. My infrastructure can't handle that. We can barely handle 5,000. So again, the need is there. So what I'm trying to really say to you is that your previous guests, and you're hearing here again, we've got to align some of these different departments. We got to start talking to each other. And then we got to be able to communicate that back out to, in this case, Rattler Nation, to say, hey guys, yeah, you come in, you're saying you're a graduate and you are, but you're not really contributing to the point that we need you to contribute because we need a lot of people to do a little.
I live here in Waco, Texas, and there's a Power 5 school here, Baylor University. Mm-hmm. And they have what you would call an entire fundraising department where they have personnels within that department that just work on capital campaigns that have to do with athletics. Then they have capital campaigns to have to do with, things that are happening on campus.
Right.
Does FAMU have that same infrastructure, and can you guys use any of that infrastructure to bolster the Alumni Association?
So Rob, we are building to that, right? So the conversation has been had. We have carved out. We have found funding to bring on some of that. It's literally kind of deja vu to hear the previous guests talk about that. We are literally doing that now. We've just brought on a new advancement person, Dr. Tony Neal, who's there now. And so I think what happens, we probably all go to the same meetings and network in the same thing. And we literally take ideas from other HBCUs and other schools. So it's funny you should say that. We are having those conversations now. I know the foundation is done a study. We're looking at a capital campaign, right? So we're in that phase where we are in the background, really doing our research to see if it can be supported. And I think those are the conversations that I know we're having because I'm also on the foundation board. So as a part of that stuff's happening now, and we are looking at that. We have a position right now where we're looking for a person dedicated to athletics, particularly football. That would be a fundraiser, right? And so we've just got to find the right person to do that, to get out there and care for that.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I think those alumni associations for those schools kind of use those fundraising departments to supplement support and infrastructure. You know what I mean? Meaning that you get to use paid staff to make contact with alumni associations, well, even letterman's clubs and things of that nature, to continue with those relationships and cultivate those relationships. One of the things that I've come to understand about just fundraising in general is that to cultivate new fundraisers, new givers, mm-hmm. It's often cheaper rather than go after the new givers to just press on with the people you have and just ask those people to give more. Yeah. Now, that's not fair in my opinion, to the people who are already generous givers. Right. But when you try to be efficient as an organization, right, yeah. It's better to put your resources and your time in places where you know that there's infertile ground, right, rather than invest in things that you hope sprout at some point. So how do you balance that as a fundraiser?
And I'm going to say you have to have a balance, right? Because what I've noticed here, right, a lot of our seasoned rattlers have been carrying this water for a long time, and things are getting a little more expensive for them, and they're living on fixed incomes, right? And so it's always a concern that when you're not putting more water into the bucket, knowing that water is coming out the bucket, you're going to actually have an empty bucket at some point. So we've got to find ways and pathways and alumni associations that not only, really support, but we've got to reach and get some of these younger people and bring them aboard. And with technology, I think there are easier ways and less expensive ways to do that than in the past, right? Because in the past, it was, you had a lot of physical labor, calling, touching, and you got to pay a lot of people. With some of this technology now, I think if we really did it right and with probably a little more with it ingrained, I think we may get a few more in that bucket early on because technology is proven, right? I see it all the time. People get out here and I've seen it with rattlers. We make stuff go viral and buy it all, right? I mean, we're selling shoes, we'll sell fans, we'll sell a certain particular gear that they see. Technology does that. If we just got to find a way to turn it on so that it supports our university.
I have to ask this question, Curtis. Yeah.
Ask what you want to ask.
And this question, when you first heard the idea that FAMU was going to receive a $237 million donation, what was your initial thought? Now, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole with you because we know how it all turned out. But I know another smart rattler who was skeptical from the word go. And I just wanted to know, were you also skeptical? And you're in the in crowd. So I just want to know your original thoughts.
I'm going to be honest. I'm in the in crowd. I was sitting on the stage right next to the person. That was during graduation. I spent quite a bit of time with this person that weekend because we had, I think 2 or 3 graduations that weekend, and met him that Friday night and Saturday, and all of this stuff culminated. It was a surreal moment is all I can say. There was a part that had some elation, and there was a part that, because I was there and I was in such proximity, I've been around a little while, right? I've been in corporate America for some times, and I've been at a very high level in some very high level rooms. There was some amount of skepticism because it wasn't matching up, right? I've been around some very wealthy people, and I've seen how they move. And, I guess at one point I was just trying to be hopeful and optimistic that it would work, and trusting in the system, that all of the proper vetting had been done. And I think as we've begun to unfold that and unpack that, there were probably some things that maybe didn't get the amount of attention that it should have gotten. And so that's where we are. But I can tell you, Rock, I was there. I can't deny that. There are pictures. I'm literally sitting right next to that situation on stage. And so it was something that we've turned the corner. We are moving forward. We have recovered from that. And the better days of FAMU and raising money to FAMU is ahead of us. So
okay. I just have to address this. Okay. So the guy thinks I'm trolling and trying to be messy. What I'm simply saying is, I asked the question for this reason, Curtis. As I've gotten to know the FAMU alumni, y'all are some of the most brilliant people in the state of Florida. I'll put that. And there's no way, in my opinion, that it makes sense that it got as far as it did with the people that y'all have at y'all disposal from just a knowledge and experience standpoint. Just looking at the people who are on the board. You know what I mean?
Well, Curtis, let me answer that. I'm gonna answer that for you. So, Rocky, here's the answer. And I think
I'm not trying to be messy or anything.
Wait a minute, I'm going to answer that because I can answer this better because I'm part of the street committee. There are people that are placed that have jobs that they do. Curtis' job is to be an alumni association, like he said. What I'd rather ask him about is, Curtis, this, because we, like you said, we moved on. This is 2025. How about we talk about the real money that you actually have raised and supported family? We ain't gonna talk about the money that we don't know about. So Curtis, I'm gonna move this conversation to actually
Thank
people. So Curtis, one of the things I want to talk about is that I see that the athletic teams, the football team, baseball, they're creating their own alumni organizations and things like that. So let's talk about how you're working with them to each one of those programs to build that, and also let's talk about actually monies that have actually been raised to support. And I think one of the things that we did do is you talk about scholarships to keep students. I think $150,000 of scholarships that were given out just recently. Let's kind of talk about that.
Yeah. Rock, I appreciate you, brother, but we have learned that we're resilient. Okay, we have turned that corner. And there's no doubt in my mind that there will be Rattlers that will attest and step up to the great fundraising capabilities and exceed that. Okay, so I that's what I believe and know about Rattler Nation. Steve, the question, we've done something to expand our National Alumni Association by having what we call affinity groups, right? And so affinity groups is a group of people that have an affinity. We've got former football players, baseball. We have a baseball affinity group. We have a nursing group. I think that we're trying to bring on, like, the law school wants their group. Guess what, Steve? The School of Business is pretty close, right? Bringing on their affinity group. So what we've found is that through schools, through different programming, people have that like-minded and likeness. And so they're forming their own alumni group. So it allows for them to control their scholarships to their respective affinity. And we've seen great success with that. And that's allowed for us to expand our membership and gather more interest in that. The traditional model is, hey, you have a city or a state or an area where they have a particular chapter. And some of our alums, they work all over the United States, and they may be in a certain place that they don't have a chapter. But hey, I played football, so I can go on my affinity group, and things like this platform and virtual platforms will allow them to be participants. And so they gravitate back to that. And that's how they give their monies, they have their fundraisers, and then they award their scholarships to their respective, affinity on how they want to do that. So it's been tremendous. We've got softball, baseball has been very, very popular with their affinity group. So the NAA, we have a couple scholarships that we fund. We have a national scholarship that we award all students at FAMU. They have to apply, etc. And we have what we call a Save Our Students, which is an emergency fund, right? So when Dr. Hudson gets that call from a student to say, hey, I need, a small amount of money to be able to stay here because I don't have it and I needed to register, we work with him, in making sure those students stay on track.
Now, Curtis, one of the things I also want to talk about, because the alumni association, we have athletes. And as people know, our athletes, again, majority, and this is any athlete, Power 5, Florida State, Florida, are not going to go pro. How does the Alumni Association work with our athletes for as serving them? Hey, we got, like you said it best. We've got a football player, basketball player that graduated, and we connect them with older alums as far as job opportunities and things like that.
Yeah. So that's one of the things too that we're growing with our National Alumni Associations. We have a convention every year right now. We're going to be out in the Texas area market this year at the end of May 29th to June 1st. And we bring the whole operation of the NAA. That's where we actually do our annual operation. So we've got our budget, we have our business meetings, we have galas where we raise money. We have our big day of fundraising that week. But yet we also are doing more to professionally develop our alums. And so we partnered with corporations. Just last year alone at our convention, we raised over $250,000 from some of our corporate partners.
See that, right? That's real money. That's real money, right there.
Real money that we raised in corporate partnership that allowed for us to put on our convention. And then they came in and they were partnering with chapters and saying, hey, we're looking for this type of student. We're looking for this type of alum that may be looking for a career change, right? And we've had that. That's the system that we're fostering with our alumni association as we have our national conventions. And so we have great corporate partners. We're looking to expand that. Obviously right now, things are a little bit different nationwide in our companies now. So we're going at it a little bit different in how we're partnering with them. And we've never really just said this, but we know that if they're looking for great talent, it's at FAMU. FAMU has a variety of different students from all walks of life. And we do have white students, we got Black students, we got Latin students, we got just smart students, right? We got them all. And so our platform is to make sure that when they want a great quality education and they're looking for engineers, or they're looking for business, or they're looking for pharmacy, they're looking for nurses, that Florida A&M is in that particular.
Curtis, let me ask you this: have you guys been able to capitalize on being named the #1 public HBCU in the country? Use that with corporate sponsorships and maybe even inspire alumni giving since being named the #1 public HBCU?
So I think the answer is twofold. So yes, our corporate giving is up from the advancement office and our corporate partnership. So absolutely, corporations are coming to the table, and we have exceeded our goals each and every year when we set our goals for corporate fundraising. So the advancement office is absolutely doing that. The Alumni Association, I think we have begun to partner with that, but and making sure we capitalize on it. I think what we're going to do a better job as a university is building that out and really spreading that around to alums to say, hey, this is what we need to do, and demonstrating that we're a #1 public HBCU. And that's going to start, ironically, on Wednesday and Thursday of this week. It's our 1887 annual giving program. So starting this week, the university will be participating in our annual giving day. And so we have 2 days of that. And that's really where the measure of FAMU alum comes in. And so that's our day. Even if you just give $1, it will be registered as #1. It will help drive that number that says, okay, you have this amount of graduates. What's the percent of Rattlers that actually contribute to that? Because that's what corporations look at. They want to say, okay, you're going to ask me for $100 million over so many period of time. What's the percent of alums giving to you? You've got these 80,000 plus graduates. Is it 10%? Is it 8%? Whatever it is. So that's how we measure that. So that's going to be a point where I think we can really demonstrate this to help strengthen our university ask when it comes to these corporations, right? And so we're going to kick that campaign off this week, and we'll have Rattlers all over the nation giving. And no amount is too small, no amount is too large. Just give something on those two.
You know, I gave for 19. I gave for your 19th AD at FAMU.
Okay.
And ever since I gave, you guys have been pretty consistent, reaching out and touching me and making sure that if I have any lunch money, any change fall out in the couch, y'all have stayed in contact with me. And you know, and I haven't unsubscribed from the emails yet.
Thank you. Hey, do me a favor, Rock. Just share that with a few of your friends, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
AB,
But no,
she's a great lady, and it's ironic. So she's the 19th athletic director. I'm the 19th NAA president. So that's.
And I think Cozy is the
19th head coach, right? So
Yeah.
we had our 19th number thing here. Yeah.
Now, Curtis, one of the things, and we're going to wrap it up because I know it's late and everything, but it was
That's
a couple
okay,
things I want to, I want to bring up. Now, your term is getting ready to end. Now, you're running again. So a lot of people love the job that you've done. I respect the job you've done and things like that. What are you looking to in your next term to do? Yeah. And like I say, and again, I want to talk about two things. Again, just the overall point of view, and also because you do have a great relationship with AD Suggs, and how you're going to be also tightening that bond with athletics and the Alumni Association.
Yeah, so we just have to build on what we've done, Steve. I mean, you know, it's been 3 years. This thing goes fast, right? And so I'm up for re-election. The ballots actually went out today, and so electronically we'll conduct this, and we will pick a new slate of administrators that will come into a very successful NAA. You know, Rock, we run this machine. It's all volunteer powered. I mean, they do work. It's not like you come here and get to wear a jacket. I mean, I'm on calls all day. I'm dealing with a university, and I got a life, right? I'm an elected official that's in a city that's serving a city of 50,000 people. You know, I've got a business that I run myself, right? My consulting practice and leadership training and development. So I'm busy, right? But I still find time to be here and be a part of a team that we really want the best for FAMU. And so as we approach this re-election season, we will have a new slate here going forward by let's say it's April, right at the beginning of May, and the NAA will move forward. The work that we do is important, and the things that I want to continue to build upon is we've got to critically get our infrastructure in place. We know we need to grow, but the one mistake that all HBCUs make, in my opinion, is the infrastructure is not there to handle it. And that's when people get frustrated. They can't get the answers. They can't give. We are doing that. And so it's not only technology, but we're also getting the infrastructure and alignment together with our advancement office and the foundation office, so that as monies are flowing and we're trying to move monies from chapters to students and putting it on an account, there's a lot of stuff there. And there are a lot of systems that we may be sophisticated and lined up with, but once it meets the university system, if it's not aligned, it ain't gonna work, right? And so there are a lot of conversations that are happening now to get these processes in place. And then you compound that with a new university president coming in that's obviously going to bring and put their team around them, right? Whatever that looks like. And so it's just, you know, it's a perfect, great storm. We will rise above this and continue to move forward. We're going to have a great football season, but we just want to build upon it, right? We want to support all our programs. We want the alumni to be strengthened to continue to advocate for FAMU at the Florida Capitol, at the nation's capital, and making sure that we're asking for the appropriations and support from those programs. And then we want to attract more alums. You know, we want more Steve Campbells out there saying, hey, how can we really help get more alums involved with this and be a part of the great success that Florida A&M is, Florida A will continue to be, and Florida A&M will be here forever. And that's what we want to make sure.
Absolutely. Hey, man, you know, I don't know your role in the end zone VIP section. You don't have any role in that?
I walk through and wave. I have a few cocktails with the people. You know, I don't miss a great cocktail, right? So I have a great cocktail with the people, and you know, just chop it up, man. Steve was here when I was here. I was the unofficial mayor. I was the mayor of Tallahassee because, you know, I love a great party now. You're not going to get me to miss a great party.
No, and I brought that up because, you know, most of the people there are alumni and seasoned alumni. What it looks like, and it's just a great environment. I had the pleasure of accompanying Steve in that area, and it was just a overall great time. Probably one of the best experiences I had in HBCU. You know, being around HBCUs, even in the middle of a monsoon, it was all right.
Listen, I remember that vividly. I was just going to say, you were there with the commissioner and with the SWAC commissioner. He was there. We were all just swamped, but you know what? The beverages kept being poured and we got through it, and we had a great victory. We had a great party afterwards. So we just love that, man. And not only we did that for football, for basketball this year, we actually brought an indoor version of that to our basketball games. So, you know, that's the creativity of our AD Suggs and really seeing that. And, you know, we played a small role behind the scene to make sure that we could help support that. You know, as a 501c3 organization that we run here, we are always looking to partner. And that's a great avenue that a lot of people, you know, realize that we're a 501c3, we're a DSO. And so there's a lot of great things and partnerships that await us, and we look forward to that.
And Rocky, I just want to put one button on it. And I want to say this because you mentioned that. And I'm going to say this, Kirk, because I know this because I had this discussion today. Florida State, the university gives $1 million to the Alumni Association to operate. Everybody on our Alumni Association, it is a labor of love. They ain't getting no checks, bro. And they work hard. They pay their way to get to where they got to go. They pay for their tickets to get the games. So the thing about it is, and that's what I think is, and I'm challenging all of us, because Curtis, what happens is a lot of times we have all, these YouTube shows and Facebook page. Everybody complains. Why this ain't perfect? Why this ain't? The only way it's gonna get perfect is we have people like Curtis and supporting them, because, like I said, it's a labor of love. So, Curtis, I really appreciate you coming on, because the one thing about it is we hear about what the alumni supposed to do, but I think it's very important to know that without sports, without the alumni, there is no sports, and vice versa. So, like I said, I appreciate you coming on, and like I said, we wish you well in the election.
Thank you all. Have a great evening, man. And hey, who knows? Maybe back soon.
Oh man, we gotta bring you back. Hey, Curtis, let me tell you something.
One way or another, bring me back.
Yeah, we'll bring you back when we do our football picks. We'll let you pick your picks and stuff like that.
All right.
Thank you, Curtis.
All right.
Hey man, this has been a great day, man, or evening. We've had AD Goff to give us his experience as an AD and the functions of an AD and the things he's trying to do at Prairie View. We had Curtis, kind of echo some of the same things and said FAMU is trying to implement some of those same things that AD Goff was talking about, man. Looks like HBCUs are in good shape, huh, Steve?
Man, listen, the thing about it, what makes HBCUs are the people. And what I'm super, and Rocky, what you need to do is open up the phone line for 5 minutes so these FAMU pit rallies can curse you out and everything for 5 minutes.
The phone lines are open.
Hey man, listen, y'all call in and tell this joke. Hey man, listen, let me say this. This is what's so great. First of all, let's talk about the Prairie View people. And I'm gonna say, and this is what people don't understand. You Rocky, and I'm saying this as a joke. You'll make a statement, but we love our schools. And we ain't gonna let nobody, I don't care if you, like Curtis said, even if you get to the school, because we know what our schools have done for us. Those Prairie View people are, like I say, I had a person, class of 1959. She loves her school. She's watching this show because she wants to support. That's 1959, bro. You see what I'm saying? We got all the Prairie View people in. So when we hear things and jokes, bro, we gonna get at you. So I'm just letting you know, don't ever think that we don't love you, but we gonna get at you. Same with the FAMU people. So yes, with the thing with the 237 thing, we understand what it is. But neither I can't control it, Curtis can't control it. No. But what I'm saying is, but the one thing about it didn't stop FAMU. That's the great thing about it. It didn't. A lot of people would be like, oh man, listen, man, whatever. We keep moving, and we still turn out to be the #1 public HBCU. So what I'm saying to all my people that watch the show, first of all, I appreciate you because you all are supporters of your schools. You always gonna support school. And like I say, when that joker Rocky get out of line, man, just check him like y'all do, man. Just check.
Again, Curtis, he's so professional, so knowledgeable, and in the conversation, I really wasn't doing it to be disrespectful, or even be funny. I just wanted to get an understanding of someone of his acumen in the moment. What was he thinking? That's just what I wanted to know. What was he thinking in the moment? I didn't want us to rehash or relitigate that experience. But a guy of his intellect, you kind of knew it was a fugazi right off the bat.
Well, see, this is why I think. Well, I want to clear something up. I think. Well, let's be clear. I think when anything, I wasn't there on the stage, you know what I mean, or even around it. So I think the reason why I wanted to make sure I spoke for Curtis because he is our alumni president. That's his personal thought, whatever he might have thought. You see what I'm saying? That's his personal, whatever he thought. Because what you're revealing is my personal thought. Now, if I'm working for the university, I'm not telling y'all nothing what I thought about. You see what I'm saying? I don't work for the university, so I can talk that. But when, again, this goes back to the point, when you have certain positions.
You had official capacity.
It's official capacity. You have to sit back and you have to measure. And what I will say, and this is what I think what FAMU people did the best. They still rally around their school. They still work to raise money. Like Curtis said, record break, fundraising, trying to increase the alumni. And man, we still here. So again, I don't mind the questions, but I want you to understand when you see the pushback, that's what comes at it. Because a lot of, for these people, this is, like I say, this is a real job. You know what I mean? And it's not a paid job. With AD Goff, there are things, down there at Prairie View. I'll give you an example. With the situation with Al Wash, I have Prairie View people that have a certain perception about dealings. You see what I'm saying? But that's not for me to say. But what I do like what AD Goff talked about was, hey, this is what we're doing to increase Prairie View's fundraising capabilities. This is how we're going to make a better game day experience, because all we want, and I think everybody agree, I want every school to have competent people at the helm. So be it Curtis, be it AD Goff, AD Suggs, AD Bryant, AD Robinson, Coach TC Taylor, whoever the coach, and things like that. That's all we want from HBCU land, because the bottom line is, like I told you, you said Baylor. Baylor's they pay people. Curtis and that whole crew do that for free, bro. And they make it look good. You see what I'm saying? They make it look good.
Yeah. It was, like I said, that was a compliment for him to be able to do get done as much as he does on a volunteer basis with no budget at all, with no paid employees. It's amazing that you guys are able to do what you guys are able to do. But just imagine if there was some investment there, what you guys would be able to do.
Yeah.
So. But there ain't nobody called. I'm finna shut down the line.
All right.
And our coach is not here to take us out, so I'll do my best impression of Coach Cole. Because if you see yourself at the end of the rope, tie a knot and hold on tight. Because what, Campbell?
Ain't nobody bad like me. But I tell you one thing, you keep asking them crazy that quick, we're going to tie that knot somewhere else and let you know.
All right,
have a good night.